something called the placebo effect, but the opposite of that is the nocebo effect. Placebo means I took a sugar pill and I believe it's going to help me, and it does. The nocebo effect is I believe I have something, it's really negative, and so my body is breaking down because of it. There was a story I read about a man who was diagnosed with liver cancer, and his doctor told him, you have about 3 to 4 months to live. And the man died 3 months later. They went in and did a biopsy and realized they misdiagnosed him. There was a small benign tumor. By the way, this is a real story. We see these case studies published. Think about the power of your beliefs. That if you believe that you have a condition that you don't even have, you could die in 3 months without having that issue. Our beliefs are incredibly powerful. And so you want to make sure that you are believing the right things about these areas in life. You want to make sure you're believing the right things about yourself, about others, about your career, about wealth, about God, about the world. It's critical.
The heart of man.
This is the book of Ecclesiastica, aka Sirach, chapter 25 and verse 13. And it says, give me any plague but the plague of the heart, and give me any wickedness but the wickedness of the woman. First and foremost, I'd like to give our praise and honor to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakakadash. I want to give double honor to the apostles and elders of the Great Millstone for teaching me the truth 100% securely. And I would like to give a salutation to the Akim and Aqua who are listening and studying to show ourselves approved. This is Brother Bayon from the Tulsa, Oklahoma, Hebrew Israelite Camp, coming back to you with another quick lesson. And it's pretty much going to be a quick lesson in pretty much controlling your thought. And that will pretty much be the title. You know, as you see in the opening clip, that was an opening clip of a lesson that Elder Mata Zakba did. His page of GMS South Carolina 08, GMS South Carolina 08, and you saw them in the opening clip how the power of your belief can also affect you from the belief of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. All right, so he using an example, as you saw, is that there was a guy that was diagnosed with cancer, and the doctor told him he had 3 months to live. All right, and 3 months later, they did a biopsy on him. All right, and they found out that the doctor misdiagnosed him. Okay, and so it just shows you the power of your belief and how it can affect you. And that I pretty much, while listening to the lesson that Elder Mata Zakba did, you know, I would kind of compile a bunch of basically precepts that came to mind as I was listening to his lesson, right? So I got a precept listed, which I'm gonna be pretty much reading in no particular order. All right, so we just got to read in Sirach 25 and 13, where it says, "Give me any plague, but the plague of the heart, and any wickedness, but the wickedness of the woman." And you heard the wisdom, right, from that very book, you know, and also knowing when you read the very first chapter of Sirach, you saw that he pretty much imitated King Solomon. All right, so that's why you see a lot of scriptures that sounds like King Solomon, because he imitated it and, you know, put it in his own words, so on and so forth. Well, anyway, but when it says give me any plague but the plague of the heart, it actually goes into mental health. All right, and so when you think about a person with mental health, somebody who can't control their thought, they're pretty much like a brute beast or a rabid dog. And a rabid dog is something they have to be put down. All right, and that's the same thing that goes to pretty much the 2/3 of a nation of Israel. All right, they are a bunch of rabid dogs. Okay, they are pretty much cleaving to the flesh. They given over to the lust. They are given over to a reprobate mind. Okay, and so this is why Sirach, when he said that, he said, "Give me any plague but the plague of the heart, and any wickedness but the wickedness of a woman." All right, and going throughout all history, we've seen both how effective both can be. All right, the plague of the mind. All right, which I just explained. Then you got the wickedness of a woman. Even in the scriptures, you saw how Adam first Eve introduced Adam to sin, and then you got histories of how, you know, Delilah brought down Samson, and so on and so forth. Okay, so he would rather have any ailment besides mental health and any wickedness besides the wickedness of a woman. All right. Well, but in this lesson we're gonna talk about controlling your thoughts because that is pretty much not being able to control the thoughts is pretty much the plague of your mind, which is mental health. Okay. And I have an article that I wanted to go into going into that. But before we do that, we're going to go read the book of 2 Corinthians 13 and 5. All right, so this is 2 Corinthians chapter 13 and verse 5. And it says, examine yourself whether ye be in the faith, prove your own self. Know ye not that your own self, how that Yahweh Shah Hamashiach is in you, except you be a reprobate. All right, and you read the same verse in the NLT, it said, examine yourself to see if your faith is genuine. Test yourself. Surely you know that Yahweh Shah Hamashiach is among you. If not, you have failed the test of genuine faith. All right, which is pretty much the same thing, but it changed up a little bit in that one right here because it said in King James it says Yahweh Shah, how that Yahweh Shah Mashiach is in you except you be a reprobate. And we're gonna go into the meanings of those, right? So first we're gonna get the word examine, the Greek word for examine.
Strong's G 3985, Pyrazzo. Pyrazzo.
And it's the Greek word parazo, and it says to try whether a thing can be done, to attempt, endeavor, to try, make trial of test for the purpose of ascertaining his quality of what he think or how he will behave himself, in a good sense and in a bad sense, to test one maliciously, craftily, to put to proof his feeling or judgment. All right, you can see go on to that to try or test one faith, virtue, character by enticement to sin. All right, and so it's twofold. All right, so when you examine yourself, you're examining your thoughts, your behaviors. All right, before you behave a certain way, it come in a form of your mind, whatever you're thinking at that particular time. All right, and so let's get that, and then we go into prove your own self because it said examine yourself, and then it said prove your own self.
Strong's G 1381, Dokimadzo. Dokimadzo.
Right, and if you notice, if you actually go into the first John 4:1 when it says, "Beloved, believe not every spirit, but try the spirit." All right, when you look up "try the spirit," this is the same Greek word as dokimazo. Okay, um, but biblical outline usage to test, examine, prove, scrutinize to see whether a thing is genuine or not as metal. All right. So when you examine yourself, you're basically scrutinizing yourself as if you were pick out jewelry from a jewelry store. All right. You're gonna look at it, see if you got however many carats that gold necklace is, watch, or so on and so forth. It's the same thing. You're examining your thought. All right. And it says to recognize as genuine after examination, to approve, deemed worthy. Strong's definition from Strong G 1384 to test literally or figuratively by implication to approve, allow, discern, examine, like approve, try. All right, so you're gonna look at this certain product, whatever it is you're getting ready to buy before you buy it and see if it's a good fit for whatever it is. When you look at houses and so on and so forth, you're gonna examine the furniture. You're gonna see if it's a good fit for your living room. All right, same thing. But in this case, you're examining your thought to see whether you are aligning your thoughts or aligning your behavior to the words of Yahweh Yahweh Shah. Which ultimately goes back to the very lesson that Elder Mata Zakbas had put it out. Because he said the heart of man is the mind. That was the title of that lesson. Okay? The heart of man is the mind. Okay? And so that brings me to an article, right? And so this article is going to line up perfectly with 2 Corinthians chapter 13 and verse 5, where we'll actually read that again, right? 2 Corinthians 13 and 5, it says, examine yourself whether ye be in the faith, prove your own self, know ye not your own self how that Yahweh Shah Mashiach is in you except you be a reprobate. Matter of fact, let's look up reprobate before we go into this article. I mean, we went into this over the highways and byways as well too. All right. Except you be a reprobate. The Greek word is
Strong's G96, adokimos. Adokimos.
It says adokimos. The biblical outline usage is not standing the test, not approved, properly used of metal and coin, that which does not prove itself such as it ought, unfit for, unproved, spurious, reprobate. All right. Strong definition from Strong G1 as negative particle and Strong G1384 unapproved, i.e. rejected by implication, worthless, literally or morally, castaway, rejected, reprobate. Okay? And so that's the difference between someone who's approved compared to, a reprobate or somebody that just can't get right. All right. And that's pretty much the plague of the mind is someone who can't get right, a reprobate mind. All right. So let's go into this article. And before we do that, we're going to look up the definition of self-efficacy. All right. All right. This is the definition of self-efficacy. And it says refer to an individual's belief in his or her capacity to execute behaviors necessary to produce specific performance attainment. Self-efficacy reflects confidence in the ability to exert control over one's own motivation, behavior, and social environment. All right, and so this is pretty much, I actually got an email about self-efficacy, which is, something of self-improvement, which is what you, Lord willing, you see why it lines up perfectly with 2 Corinthians 13 and 5. All right. And so when you go into this article about self-efficacy, let's get it real quick. All right, this article, you can see how, how you can pretty much examine your behavior, which is lines up perfectly with Romans, the 12th chapter, where it says, be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. And ultimately, you're renewing your mind by looking at how you behave in the past and how you want to change in the future. All right. And that is called self-efficacy in, psychology or whatever. All right. And right here, as you can see in the beginning of the article, it says self-efficacy help explains many puzzles of our motivation. Why do we give up on our fitness plan even though we know we need to be healthier? Why do we waste time on our phone instead of studying when exam dates loom close? Why do we sometimes feel excited to take on a new challenge, but other times shrink away? Okay. And it says understanding self-efficacy can also help us build our motivation, but to appreciate the theory, we need to step back and take a look at an earlier, simpler theory of motivation and self-efficacy. So we're going to skip past that, which is rational expectation. But this is what I wanted to go to right here, with going into this picture right here. It says person, behavior, outcome, right? Self-efficacy cannot take action, all right? The outcome of the expectation, what will the action get me? Or will the action get what I want, all right? And ultimately that goes back into examining yourself. All right, and then it goes into self-efficacy is not self-esteem and so on and so forth. But let's go into what caused self-efficacy. This is what I wanted to read. Hold on. Salaki, bear with me. Okay, here we go, right here. So this one right here, because it got two things. So as we read in 2 Corinthians 13 and 5, it goes to examine yourself, improve your own self, where you're gonna think about good thoughts that's going to prove your performance in the future. And then it said, except you be a reprobate, which is a negative effect of not improving yourself, right? All right, so because it got the four, let's go back. It got four moderation of self-sufficiency. It got bodily arousal and verbal persuasion, and then it got vicarious experience and personal mastery. All right, and so body arousal, it says think of sweaty palms and racing heart to accompany stage fright or the queasiness that comes before a big exam. This can make it harder to perform even if you otherwise will be able to relax, to be able to in a relaxed state. And it says verbal persuasion, the crowd cheering as you finish a race, teacher telling you that you can do it, simple affirmation that can or can't do something can influence self-efficacy, but impact is unreliable. All right, vicarious experience, witnessing someone perform the task increase self-efficacy. Firstly, this works by giving us a way to learn an effective strategy. If I watch someone solve a puzzle, I can copy their approach to get the simple result. There is also a motivational piece. All right, and this should go lines up perfectly because when you actually read Sirach, Ecclesiastica chapter 1 and verse 1, it goes into like it's a big paragraph, but in that paragraph it said how Sirach actually imitated King Solomon. This is that pretty much same example, okay? And then it said, and then the next one is personal mastery. It says, experiencing success with tact or something like it, it is most powerful tool improving self-efficacy. I feel more confident if I can run a marathon after I have run a half marathon. Those goes into your experience, which goes lines up perfectly with 2 Corinthians 13 and 5. All right, so you can see how a lot of scriptures lines up with this very article. Like Hebrews 11 and 1, it says, faith is the substance of things hoped for, evidence of things not seen. All right, so even before you achieve a goal, you hoping, and it's ultimately the evidence of not things seen as of yet. All right, so before you achieve that goal, it's not seen at that point. So so you have faith, you got to have that belief. All right, and this is the same mindset you got to have with your how about me outside, which is pretty much lines up, with everything that's going on. Why you got some people that have unbelief because their thoughts, all right, their simple thoughts. They don't believe in the words of Yahweh Bashim outside, so therefore they're going to, you know, do scoff. They're going to do all kinds of things. Matter of fact, when we did the highways and byways this past Sunday, there was a scoff on my page. Okay, which Lord willing, I'll do a lesson on that. It might not be as important as it is, but going back into this article, and it says motivation built from success because personal mastery is crucial to building self-efficacy. A long string of failures at the beginning of an endeavor is more likely to motivate that build grit. And it said if you have low self-efficacy, it'll help to build a foundation of success. Once you have established a basic level of confidence, mission challenge with occasional setback help make that self-efficacy more robust, you'll learn that you can succeed even in the face of momentary difficulty. And that lines up perfectly with the scripture in Proverbs where it said, a just man falleth 7 times. Matter of fact, let's get that real quick. Proverbs 24 and verse 16, and it said, for a just man falleth 7 times and rises up again, but the wicked shall fall into mischief. All right, so that goes both ways. There's a balance. So a just man is going to, that just man that falleth 7 times, he's going to examine himself, 2 Corinthians 13 and 5, and he's going to see why he fell those last 6 times. Okay, and then he's going to try something different in the near future. But he said, but the wicked shall fall into mischief. And so that wicked man that falls 7 times, he going to continue doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result, which is that's that reprobate mind, which is pretty much go hand in hand with the rabid dog. That individual has to be put down just like that rabid dog because he's a reprobate mind, all right? He can't get right, okay? So go back to the article. All right. Okay, and then he got the second point in the article. It said the confidence can spiral, it can go up or down. All right, so we got two balance right here. It says the mathematics of self-efficacy form a positive feedback loop. Consider you have some self-efficacy which enable you to take action and receive result. Success from taking the action increase your self-efficacy. Next time you are more motivated to take the previous action. Repeat. It says eventually your motivation will plateau at the level implied by the rational expectation, which is one reason why even some tasks we're supremely confident in, like washing dishes, don't inspire ecstatic motivation. Conversely, motivation can also crash as we experience low self-efficacy. You have self-efficacy and take action, but you fail to follow up or fully complete the action. Not achieving the desired result decrease your perceived self-efficacy. Next time you have less motivation to take the previous action, repeat. Okay, we'll go see how that lines up perfectly with scripture. Well, we just got to read in Proverbs 24 and 16. A just man falleth 7 times. Let's go read that again. All right, it said, for a just man falleth 7 times and rises up again, but the wicked shall fall into mischief. We go see that balance, okay? And so when you don't control your thoughts, because ultimately all your behaviors start from one simple thought. Those thoughts that you have in your mind is like that seed that's planted, okay? So let's see what other precepts we have, and we'll close this thing out. All right. Matter of fact, we reading the book of Proverbs. We was in Proverbs 24 and 16. So we'll go read that Proverbs 25 and 8. All right, and it says Proverbs 25 and 8. He said, "He that hath no rule over his own spirit is like a city that is broken down and without walls." Okay, so if you don't have a full grounded thought process about your behavior yourself, you can be ran through, you know, just by anybody. Anybody can tell you anything, and you'll pretty much believe it. Just like that video with Elder Maddie Akbar just posted, where an individual was told he had 3 months to live, and guess what? The doctor misdiagnosed him, but still, because he believed it, he died 3 months later. Okay, that is that same individual that didn't have no rule over his own spirit. Okay, and so he was that city that was broken down. All right, and without walls, he didn't have no defense against that doctor. Okay, and so that's why it's important to have self-control, to be able to control your thoughts. Okay, let's get some more precept. Well, if you got the book of Matthew, the 7th chapter, and the 24th, with Matthew chapter 7 and verse 15. All right, a lot of times when I read Matthew the 7th chapter, I often call it Psychology 101. Because, even when you go into the beginning of it, like where right here in the first chapter, first verse, it says, "Judge not that ye be judged." And you go on, you read verse 5, it said, "Thou hypocrite, first cast out the beam of thy own eye, and then shalt thou see clearly to cast out the mote out of thy brother's eye." So this is going into a hypocrite. Okay, so you can't try to tell someone how to be and how not to be if you yourself don't try to do it yourself. All right, I can't tell you how to have faith if I'm not practicing in my belief in faith in Yahweh Shem Yahushua. Therefore, I would be a hypocrite. All right, and hence why I call this chapter Psychology 101, because it tells people, it tells about certain people. Okay, give you an idea of the people that you're dealing with on your daily walk. Okay, so jumping down to Matthew chapter 7 and 15, okay, because it says, matter of fact, let's look this up in the blue letter. All right, it's Matthew chapter 7 and 15 in the blue letter Bible. Okay, as you can see, this is red letter. Okay, because it says, "Beware of false prophets which come to you in sheep clothing, but inwardly they are ravening wolves." Okay, and it says inwardly. What is inwardly? Your inward thought. Okay, they come to you in sheep clothing, meaning that their thoughts, their mind is full of deceit. All right, verse 16. "Ye shall know them by their fruits. Do men gather grape or thorn or figs of tissue? Even so, every good tree bringeth forth good fruit, but a corrupt tree bringeth forth evil fruit. A good tree cannot bring forth evil fruit, neither can a corrupt tree bring forth good fruit. Every tree that bringeth forth not good fruit is hewn down and cast into the fire. Wherefore by their fruits ye shall know them. All right, and I like to read this Matthew 7:20 in the NLT, right? Because it says, yeah, just as you can identify a tree by its fruit, so you can identify people by their action. Okay. And before they make a decision, it always come as a form of a thought. Okay. So when you go back and you read, and it says, in verse 18, it said, a good tree cannot bring forth evil fruit. Okay, so if you come across an individual that's full of good thought, all he think about is good things, you're not going to see bad behavior coming from that individual. The same vice versa. When you see a person that's full of bad thought, evil things, you're not going to see that people bringing out good things. Okay, you're not going to see that people being charitable or so on and so forth. All right, and that's the same thing. This is what Yahweh Shah was talking about when you're dealing with certain people. Okay, and it always comes as a form of a thought. All right, so when you see dealing with scoffers coming out, on the highway, the byway, scoffing, saying that they don't believe in the words of Yahweh Shah, whatever the case might be, just know it come in a form of a thought process, which means that Yahweh Shah is not dealing with them, and he gave them over to be a reprobate mind. And reprobate goes into unworthy. All right, we reject it. Okay. All right, and it's pretty much the last precept that I have on the notes, which is James the 3rd chapter. Where we go ahead and read it. All right, and it says, and that's how when we read about efficacy, it says personal mastery, right? And this in James chapter 3 and verse 1, it says, my brethren, be not many masters, knowing that we shall receive the great condemnation. For in many things we offend all. If any man offend not in word, the same is a perfect man and able also to bridle the whole body. That goes into controlling your thought. Okay, when he says able also to bridle the whole body, meaning you're basically lining your thoughts up to that result that you want to achieve, which is ultimately we're talking about faith. Because when you have faith, you're going to do everything in your power to try to please Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. Because after all, without faith, it is impossible to please Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. Okay? All right, verse 3, it said, behold, we put bits in the horse's mouth that they may obey us, and we turn about their whole body. Behold, also the ship, which though they be so great, and are driven of fierce wind, yet are they turned about with a very small helm, whithersoever the governor listed. Okay, it's talking about the captain of the ship. It's a big ship, but he's in control of it. All right, that captain is like the thoughts that comes in your mind. Verse 5, it said, even so, the tongue is a little member. Zalakya. Even so, verse 5 again from the top, it said, even so, the tongue is a little member and boasts great things. Behold, how great a matter behold how great a matter a little fire kindle. All right, and so that's why there's power in your words, and it's also power in belief. All right, verse 6. And the tongue is a fire, a world of iniquity. So is the tongue among thy members, that it defiled the whole body, and setteth on fire the course of nature, and it is set on a fire of hell. Okay, the fire of hell, which hell goes in condition. Okay, conditions on earth. I've been through hell and back, and so on and so forth. Verse 7, for every kind of beast, and of bird, and of serpent, and things in the sea, is tam and have been tam of mankind. But the tongue can no man tam. It is an unruly evil, full of deadly poison. Therewith blessed we Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, even the Father, and therewith curse we men which are made of similar multitude, select a similitude of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. Out of the same mouth proceeded blessing and curses. My brethren, these things ought not so to be. Okay? And so, there's a lot of scripture that goes into about, controlling your tongue, which is, it controlling your thought. Controlling your tongue is also controlling your thought. All right. As a matter of fact, I wanted to end it off with that, but we get Sirach, the 9th chapter, Ecclesiastica, aka Sirach, chapter 9, and pretty much towards the end of that chapter. We start at verse 14, 9 and 14. It says, as near as thou can, guess at thy neighbor and consult with the wise. Let thy talk be with the wise, and all thy communication in the law of the Most High. And let the just man eat and drink with thee, and let thy glorying be in the fear of the Lord Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. And it says, for the hand of the artificer, the work shall be commanded, and the wise ruler of the people for his speech. A man of an ill tongue is dangerous in his city, and he that is rash in his thoughts shall be hated. All right, and so that's pretty much. You can see how this very chapter of the book lines up perfectly with Proverbs. Cause I think it's Proverbs 18 and 21. We can go get that where it said, life and death is in the power of the tongue, and they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof. Yes, yeah. Proverbs 18 and 21 said, death and life are in the power of the tongue, and they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof. Okay, which is pretty much, if you don't control your thoughts, whether it be, if you have evil thoughts, ultimately the consequences are going to be, deadly. Okay, versus when you have good thoughts, you're gonna, receive many blessings and so on and so forth. So this is why it's important to control your thoughts. All right, so Lord willing, this was edifying, and with that, I'm gonna give all praise and honor to Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, by Hashem Kakadash. I want to give double honor to the apostles and the elders of the great millstone for teaching me the truth 100% securely. Shalom. Kwam Yasharala. Shalom.